Welcome back. From the previous video, we talked about how to mod some of the easier things, starting with the shell and with the weapons to kind of help you start to create orbs and to utilize more mods to make yourself stronger, weapon and ghost-wise. And then we started to look at the armor, and I wanted to go more in depth. I'm making a second video because the first one's about 16 minutes, which I didn't think it was that long, but apparently I like to talk. Can't help it. Sorry. So I don't want to make another 16-minute video, but I can't, can't guarantee anything. Anyway, one of the major reasons you want to start to masterwork your armor as well is that it increases the really important stats here, which makes you last a little bit longer, more resilient, and kind of survive. It's also important to kind of start to think about masterworking this stuff because you will need it for certain activities such as things like Grandmaster or Master, which allows you to go after really important components for future masterworking of things, especially armor, which are the Ascendant Prisms and then the Ascendant Shards, also known as the Golf Balls. So these things are, masterworking the armor is really important. Other things to think about once you hit 1250 or get close to 1250 and are thinking about masterworking are going after the seasonal exotics. So for here, the arms requires you to do this alone on 1250, and really without doing kind of certain builds, these things alone are very, very difficult. They're doable, but they're extremely difficult. 1280 for sure. But there are other activities like the Empire Hunt on a master difficulty, which if you take a look at, it's going to be 1280, but it's going to allow you to go after the kind of rewards for it, which are, better armor and again more prisms. Now within the rewards, you're also going to see cores. They don't list it here, but they're part of the drops. So okay, so let's go back and let's take a look at our armor. Now you can see here that I've masterworked the Moonfang armor, which is the Prophecy Dungeon. Again, your masterworking armor that you really like. I like this. I like this two-tone black and white kind of look. I'm using monochromatic as my shader. I like this. For me, I think this is... sure, let's go with sexy. It's sexy in my eyes, but I'm blind, so that also helps. But when we left off, we were talking about what each of these slots are. So real quickly again, your first slot for mods are based in your stats. And you can see when I kind of scroll over these, you can see where the stats are going to increase and then what it's going to take away from what you already have. So if I replace it with anything else, obviously my recovery mod, which is what I have currently in there, a plus 10 recovery mod, it's going to take away the plus 10 and add it somewhere else. It's going to add the point somewhere else, which is all based on, again, your comfortability and where you want your stats. Now, I will say this. For this season, a lot of people are saying put your stats in resilience because the enemies are definitely a lot stronger. And if you go into Crucible, a plus 7... 7 or higher will keep you from getting like 2-tapped or 3-tapped with certain weapons. A Hawk Moon that's fully charged and it's got that full 7-stack charge on it, which is its bonus perk. If you're a 6 or less, meaning if you're a 60 or less in terms of resilience, that thing can one-shot you. in the chest if it lands. So there are certain things to just be aware of. But most people who are making videos will tell you to keep your resilience up at a +7 or above, and keep recovery up as well. Now here you can see mine's almost at a 90, and you can see my recovery rate for going higher. I like recovery on warlocks just because they tend to be the healers. Now, obviously, I'm using stasis, but on my fire build, I'm always using well. Okay. So that's what the first slot is for, is to deal with those kinds of perks. The second and third slot are weapon-based. For the helmet, the initial perk is for the ammo finder. I really like using Xenophage, so I obviously have a machine gun finder mod to find more heavy bricks, and then I've got Gnawing Hunger, my auto rifle that's been masterworked, so it's going to find more primary ammo for me. Now you can see here that with those, I've got 4 here, 3, and 1, so I've got 8 out of 10, which gives me basically 2 spaces left. And it's enough to start pulling things for my builds here on what I want to do. If I want to go Charged with Light, or if I want to go a Warmind build, and we'll talk about that here in a second. But you can see I've done the same for my arms. Arms, the first slot again is always going to be for your stats. On arms, the second and third slot are for recovery, but it's also for these green mods, which are the seasonal mods. And these are the mods that you need for the higher level activities, the 1220s, the 1250s, the 1280s, and the 1300s if we're talking about Grandmaster. You've got your champions that require to be kind of stunned based off of what they are. So I have one for SMGs, and I have one for auto rifles, because I was trying to do an activity solo with it. So I needed for Overload, which is this, and then I needed one for Barrier, which was the SMG. So, but you can change these out. When it's not the seasonal mods, it's all about reload speed. So if I wasn't using this for reload speed, or for the seasonal mods, I would be probably putting it into, I'd give the sidearm to make my sidearm reload even faster, and I'd probably put the other one in the reload speed of Xenophage, because Xenophage kind of has a slow reload speed on its own. But with this setup, again, I still have a lot of space for the Warmind mods if I really, or the other mods if I want to. Okay. A really big question is, when do I masterwork something? And again, besides the personal preference, you would masterwork a piece of legendary armor or exotic. It's up to you, but we'll talk about why exotics are a little more difficult. You're going to masterwork a legendary piece of armor, again, personal preference, but also if your stats are higher than somewhere between 63 and 65. So if you look at my total here on my Wild Hunt investments, you can see mobility, resilience, recovery, blah, 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 blah. And then it goes down to total, and it's 58. 58 is okay, but a 63 to 65 total is where you have a broader kind of coverage over all the stats, and that would be something worth masterworking, because what it's going to do is add even more points to it and get you closer to kind of the 100 total. But it is up to you. If you really like what you've got, and you like the legendary piece of armor, and you're like, you know what, I really want to hang on to this for as long as I possibly can, I'm going to masterwork this. That's up to you. It is your call. There's no right or wrong answer on masterworking something that you love, legendary-wise or exotic-wise. So There are certain exotics that I really, really love, but I haven't masterworked them because they cost a lot more. Um, but let's take a look at the Wild Hunt vestment. I've already masterworked it to a 5. Because once armor goes past 5, it's not going to just use enhancement cores, it's also going to use the prisms, and then the last slot is going to be an ascendant shard, which is really hard to buy, earn, that sort of thing. So when you're masterworking armor, you really have to think about how much you're going to use the piece, how much do you really love it, because ascendant shards are hard to come by. But I'm going to show you anyway, at least, and then I'll show you. I'm not going to take it to a 10 because I don't have any ascendant shards, but I'm at least going to pull it up to a 9 for you here. So here's the Wild Hunt. So again, once you start adding energy bars to this, once you start infusing, it starts off with just Glimmer, and then Glimmer and Legendary, and then it's going to move to Glimmer Legendary Enhancement Core. So if I take it from a 5 to 6, takes 1. 6 to a 7 takes 2 enhancement cores and then some of the other materials. Now you see from a 7 to an 8, I'm going to be adding enhancement prisms. Those are hard to come by, but I'll show you what you can do to get some. And then from an 8 to a 9, it's going to take 2 prisms. And then from a 9 to a 10 takes an ascendant shard. So it's expensive, again, but it's worth masterworking if you really like it. So where do the cores and the prisms all come from?
What do you need?
Well, outside of doing things like nightfalls on higher difficulties and master hunts, they come from Banshee. Your cores are going to come from your daily reset bounties. You can get them here. And even Spider has some too, but Spider's cost is not only Glimmer, it's also, or I'm sorry, it's not Glimmer, it's Ghost Shells. So if you spend a lot of time on the Tangled Shore and you're looking for enhancement cores, and you just want to do the bounties, his resource are these Ghost Fragments, and they come from just really basically running around the Tangled Shore. Now Spider will also sell enhancement cores. Enhancement cores cost 30 legendary shards for each one, and you can buy up to 5 per day. He will also sell enhancement prisms, but they cost 400 legendary shards, which I don't think that's worth it. You're better off kind of earning enough cores to buy the stuff. It's just, that's too steep. It's too steep of a price. The 30 legendary shards for an enhancement core, that's okay in a pinch if you have the extra resources. Again, people are telling me, well, I've got like 6,000 legendary shards, and I'm like, how? I can barely keep it past 1,000. I think this is the most that I've had in the last 3 years because I don't hold on to this stuff. If I've got something that I like, I majorly enhance it. So with Banshee, 10 enhancement cores plus some resource material from a planet, and then it's 10,000, will earn you 1 enhancement prism. Okay, 10 of these prisms will allow you to buy the Ascendant Shard to upgrade your armor to its 10th spot. Now it only differs on exotics. So exotic weapons and armor, if you're going to take it to the 10th spot, let's look at my necrotic grips. It's not there. But if I take it to the 10th spot here, it's going to cost 3. So each piece of exotic armor or weapon to take it and masterwork an exotic, it takes 3 ascendant shards or 3 golf balls. It's a really big deal. So again, you have to love the weapon or piece of armor, and you've got to make sure that you want to hang on to it. For my warlock, my two that I'm going to be going after are my getaway artists and my necrotic grips. I love these things a lot. I need 6 though, 3 for each, 3 for this one and 3 for that one. So I've got some farming that I need to do. Okay. So let's really quickly take a look at the Warmind kind of setup build. You've heard me talk about it. The Warmind build is based off of creating these. You may have seen this in the world. These orange cells that sometimes drop from either yourself or other players. The Warmind builds are based off of creating extra damage, either by shooting the Warmind or by picking it up and throwing it at enemies, and kind of, creating this massive area of effect, or AoE, that will help kind of debilitate everybody in the area. Warminds are different for each elemental class. For the fire-based class, subclass, you've got ones that will do a lot of damage, and then you've got some that will even create healing. So I really like fire for when I'm using Warmind, because I can shoot it and not only get rid of a lot of enemies, but if I have this mod equipped, I can also heal myself and members of my team. It requires, and this is the other reason why it's important to masterwork armor, it's going to require some finagling, and it's hard to have something in every slot and be a strong character past 1250 doing the 1280s and the 1300 kind of activities. So the more breathing room you have, the better off you're going to be to create a build that works best for you. Now you can see here I've got 2 available slots left to put something in, but it's going to require me to kind of do some finagling. So, because what I really want is something like the Warmind cell. So in order to do that, I've got to, oh darn, I've got to take it down to a +2 instead of a +4. Oh look, now I can actually put it in. There. So now I've got a mod that will create healing every time I shoot it. And as long as allies are near me or the Warmind cell, they'll get the benefit as well. So it's a good perk. Doing that then allows me to do other, I can build upon it. The Void subclass will, you can see that there are some certain Warmind builds, but they're not the same as the Solar. So, this one here can create Warmind cells that last longer on the field for more people to shoot at it. You can take reduced damage enemies, like it creates a kind of overshield for you. Bonus weapon damage. This one's really good for within the Void subclass that creates a suppressing Void energy. It stops enemies from, doing certain abilities like throwing grenades or charging you, that sort of stuff. And then this one you can pick up and throw, but once you do it, you can't do it. You get a debuff for a little bit. And then, of course, Arc has a similar... I don't think I have anything Arc here. There's Arc. Let's take a look at the helmet real quick. Arc has its own Warminds. These are more of like force pushing. You get a burst of Arc energy, so it's good with Arc weapons if you use this, especially if you use it something like Trinity Ghoul. You can create an overshield. You can push his enemies away, that sort of stuff. So there's some really good uses to having a Warmind versus a Charged with Light build, but I'll do that in a third video. We'll specifically go over the Charged with Light. So that weapon can't be masterwork, so that's good, I guess. I'm trying to think of anything else that I can think of at the moment for this. I don't think so. Okay, I'm stalling here because I don't want to miss anything. So, bullet points. Masterworking armor is definitely worth it so that you can increase your total stats. Makes you survive a little bit longer and will allow you to start taking a part in the 1250, 1280, 1300 activities that are needed to gather more of these important resources like cores and prisms. And if I had any, the Ascendant Shards would go right around here. Because Ascendant Shards are not the only thing they're used for. They're also used for purchasing any and all missing exotics from the seasons. As you can see, things cost Ascendant Shards. So, they're hard to come by, very valuable, but when you use them, I still need Teraba. When you use them, again, it's a big. You don't want to have any regrets for buying the weapons. Okay. All right, we're going to talk about Charged with Light in another video. I went longer than 15 minutes. I knew it. Dang it. All right. Cool. All right. Back with the third in just a few moments.